I'm standing here with Daniel Simoes from GAT from Portugal, and we are at the closing conference of the OptTEST project and of Euro HIV EATG, which has this joint closing conference, and also we will be celebrating, so to say, the launch of the continuation of these projects integrate. Dania, what have you been doing in this two projects that we are talking about today, and also to some extent yesterday?
So we've been involved in both Euro HIV EATG and OptTEST in different working packages. At a personal level, I was a bit more involved in Euro HIV EATG. We implemented outreach self-sampling project with sex workers, which was a very interesting pilot experience on a new testing technique that seems to work rather nicely with a few subgroups among sex workers, especially people who don't go by themselves to testing centers. So it's an additional tool to link people not only to provide them with a test result, but also to link them to care. We've also been working on OptTEST, so I was involved in organizing a stakeholders meeting on two subjects. First one was HIV testing in primary care in Portugal, and the second one was linkage to care, especially in the most affected groups, both from an information system standpoint and from a practical standpoint. We were involved in other work packages. I think that regarding the stakeholders meeting, it was one of the most recent activities, and it was very interesting on several different levels. The report will be coming out, so people can have a more in-depth look into it. But aside from finding a common ground between several stakeholders, so public institutions, academia, community, and kind of putting on the table all of the barriers that are felt in real life, but also structural barriers in terms of how the system is set up, has contributed to kind of inform our advocacy efforts from now on. Several things have been in process of resolution. A few others are still being worked on, but grouping everyone in the same room and discussing with everyone sat together helps not only inform our efforts, but also to provide the public structures with a comprehensive overview of where are the gaps in the current system and possible solutions to overcome them. So for the next few months, we'll be following up on what was discussed. We're trying to promote, in a way, primary care testing, HIV testing, also indicator condition testing in primary care settings when possible. And we looked very specifically at information systems and the difficulties that some of our information systems have in terms of adequately looking at linkage to care and retention in care. And this has also had some repercussions in terms of the interest of public structures in looking at some specific issues that were flagged. Some they already knew, some they did not. It's very interesting because even within public structures themselves, when you sit everyone at the same table, it's, I wouldn't say funny, but it's interesting to see that even information does not circulate the same way in all of the structures. So there are issues that a part of the system knows and the other part doesn't know. So it was also useful to kind of share information throughout all of the stakeholders involved.
It's very interesting what you say about this, especially with public institutions, and which means like public decision makers and politicians. I assume also health policy. It's because for many of us in other regions of Europe, it is an issue to maintain a conversation, a meaningful exchange with politicians about HIV care, testing, linkage to care. What would be your key recommendation to those of us who who do not work in an environment that is that welcoming as it is in Portugal, because you have been able to manage a very or build up a very functional environment in terms of cooperation between civil society and healthcare, which is not there in other parts of Europe. So what would be your recommendation?
I mean, I have to kind of safeguard what I'm going to say by saying one thing, which is there are some environments that are very harsh, and regardless of how competent you are, sometimes the other side doesn't want to listen, and the other side can be any side. So there are some countries and that it is really very difficult. My main advice would be don't stop. Continue. I mean, we are here to defend the best interest of people, and so we are right. Being right is often not enough, but we can't back down. We cannot give up. And I mean, from our standpoint, we always had some level of opening with public structure. It depends from executive to executive, from people to people, depending on who's in charge of each of the organizations, but there's always some level of at least possible communication, even if it's by writing. And I mean, you used the right expression, which is build up a relation, and it took us a few years to get to the point where we are now, where we have I would say a consistent and structured dialogue with decision makers at different levels of our public structures, but it took a few years. And it took several demonstrations of not only our knowledge of what we were saying, but also that we were not there to criticize, we were there to help find solutions. Sometimes it's more possible than other times, but I mean, having a positive approach and a collaborative approach to not only identifying the problems, but setting up solutions that work, especially for the people who are more distant from the formal structures, I think is the key. I mean, ultimately, and again, we know what we are saying, and we have the right message. So as long as we are competent, and we will get there sooner or later.
Thank you, amazing. So as you said, the results will be on the website, which is, and the address is here, so you can just go there, click on the address and get the results there in a couple of weeks, I assume. And look out for additional reports and news coming out from this conference and from the project. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much.